The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to a well, I don't even know what to call this episode of the Phixated podcast. So just welcome back to the Phixated podcast. I'm your host, Mike Azzolina, and I am joined by a guy who, we had to postpone this recording because of how angry he was going to be, but he wasn't alone in that. I don't know how well I would have reacted to game 2. Regs, hi, man. So we what we're going to do is we're going to kind of work through games 1 and 2. React, we do immediate reaction pods after playoff games, but I was in South Bend after game 1. Regs was at the game, and then I was at game 2. And we just didn't get an opportunity to jump on. So we're going to do both. But here's what I want to kind of lead off with. It's a real shame that a 96 win ball club is going to be out in a blink of an eye here in 3 games. And, I say that as someone who's a really positive and optimistic fan. I don't see them winning tomorrow. I mean, if they do, we're going to get into the optimistic side of Azzy at the end because I want to leave with something positive, but it just goes back to what we've talked about since 2022. And you just alluded to that episode. And what had us so down after game 6 in Houston was the idea that it's just so hard to get back. It's so hard to get back. And 23 was a fun ride. And that, as you always say, that flight, something happened on that flight and it needs to be studied. Because this team has not been the same in the postseason ever since that trip to Arizona. They are, since coming back to Philly, they are now a ridiculous 1-7 since coming back to Philly from that Arizona trip. Something changed. They have not been the same. Citizens Bank is not a scary place anymore. Maybe it was never a scary place and it was just the Braves pissing down their legs. But it sucks that, Regs, I have people texting me post-mortem, what's going to happen in the offseason stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, let's get the 27th out of the 3rd loss before I start, going that direction. But it's really hard to believe. And it stays true that it's just hard to get back there. And so down 0-2, going to LA, yes, they've won 2 out of 3 from LA twice this year, but beating this team 3 times is darn near impossible. So let's get into all of the stuff that happened, because as we talked about before, it's not a golf that they're missing these games by. They're not that far separated from this Dodger team. It's 1 or 2 plays, 1 or 2 decisions, 1 or 2 good throws that are happening on one side of the diamond, but not on the other side of the diamond. So let's go ahead and jump back here into game 1. And we're not going to go inning by inning. We're just going to go big spot by big spot. And the first big spot was the 3 spot that the Phillies put up in the 2nd inning. I had not turned it on yet. We finished Notre Dame game and we went back to our tailgate and set up the TV again and watched it at our tailgate. But I was listening to it on my way through the parking lot, and the place was loud. The Bohm walk, the Marsh single, the JT triple. Bader just barely misses one. And certainly a 3-0 start against Shohei Ohtani was not something we expected, but something we were very excited about. Regs, I mean, I guess just speak to the energy in the stadium at that point and what you were feeling sitting there with a 3-0 lead and Sanchi dealing early. Well, that's what what I was going to say to you is, I think we were all sort of in that space, and Sanchi had to labor a little bit. He was not the sharpest we've seen him. He was fantastic, and I'm not sitting here saying that he was bad by any stretch of the imagination. Um, but he did hit someone to start the inning, and then he got he was able to shut him down from there. But the Phillies then went 1-2-3 in the third, 1-2-3 in the fourth. Uh, they did have Bader got hit by a pitch, Stott singled, and then Turner lined out, hit a ball hard right at Mookie, and then Schwarber struck out. So they got their next hit in the fifth, but that did not last long because they went 1-2-3 in the sixth, and then 1-2-3 sort of in the seventh because JT singled, and then Max fly out, Nick ground into a double play, and then in the eighth is when they had their best opportunity. So after that inning, they only had 3 base runners until the eighth inning. And so you went from the second inning to the eighth inning with only 3 additional base runners and got nothing else out of it. Shohei went into lockdown mode. Well, and the Phillies went into chase mode. What went well in the second inning was Alec Boehm sitting there taking pitches, forcing Shohei into the zone. JT got himself into a 2-0 count, forced Shohei into the zone. But if you're going to chase that splitter, he's going to get you every single time. He's going to get you. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to look. I mean, I know he was really throwing that splitter and had the Phillies chasing. As a matter of fact, he got back-to-back strikeouts on Schwarber and Harper in the third on splitters. Um, he got Kepler later on. Well, he got him on the fastball. He actually only threw Kepler one splitter. It looks like most all night, but he just kept going back to that splitter on Kyle. Um, got him on a couple of curveballs. He actually did get him on a curveball in the zone later in the game. Kyle was laying off the ball out of the zone, but it was down and he chased it. But I do want to talk about the other side because you mentioned, Sanchez coming out getting a shutdown inning, and he did that, and he got into the sixth with a 3-0 lead, and he got to 2 outs in the sixth with a 3-0 lead. But then all of a sudden, old friend Freddie Freeman works himself a 2-out walk. Tommy Edman finds himself on base with a single the other way, and up comes, I swear to God, that Kike Hernandez does nothing all year. And then the calendar turns to October, and this guy becomes the most annoying baseball player not on your team. And he rips a double down the left field line. Now, look, Regs, I'm going to be very honest with you. There are some people that were a little annoyed that Topper did not go get him here. But I think Chris Sanchez has earned the opportunity to stay out there. He has been awesome all year. Unfortunately, it did not turn out the way he should. Look, if this were a game in June, July, August, September, he probably strikes out Hernandez. But because it's October, Hernandez is Hernandez, right? Unfortunately, it didn't go that way. So Sanchez leaves after 5 2/3. They bring in David Robertson, who ends the inning. Didn't throw a single strike to Max Muncy. Looked like he was all over the place. So my assumption was that we were done and we were going to get into the seventh with somebody else entirely. My guess was at that point Kirkering, because they were at the bottom of their order. So I thought that maybe they'd try and steal the bottom of their order. And if they got to Shohei, I think if I'm thinking correctly, it would have been 8-9-1. I'd have to so it would have been 8-9-1. So for me, what I probably would have done is just I would have gone with Kirkering, try and get those first 2 outs, be very careful with Shohei, and go after Mookie. And if he doesn't get Mookie, at that point you can consider leaving him in to face Teoscar or go get someone else to get Teoscar. Maybe at that point, because you're into the you're still in the seventh, but you make that decision as it comes. There are options for you to make those changes, but I think the decision to bring out David Robertson to me was we're worried about Shohei and we want to save Strom for him. Man, Strom has gotten righties out all year. And so, Robertson comes out, hits a batter, gives up a hit, and now Stromi's coming in to face Shohei with nobody out. Now he gets Shohei, gets him looking. He gets Mookie to pop up. And this is what I mean by like these little moments of one team's doing it, the other team's not. 2 outs, 2 runners on. Matt Strom is right there, and he lets a fastball out over the middle of the plate. Now, I'm going to tell you, he's not tipping his pitches. They were tipping location. That's what they were tipping. It wasn't about the pitches. He was pointing for location. And Strom even missed his location, but because he only throws 91, 92. So this, Regs, for me was the first moment of Rob, what are you doing? Letting Robertson start that inning was a major Rob, what are you doing moment? Um, and turned out to be the crushing blow. Yeah, sorry, I went on a lot there. Was it yeah. Well, no, I mean, to if your point is that, if he gets Freeman, then no, he's facing, um, he's facing Edmund. Yeah, Edmund, Kike, and then whoever was after that. But, you know, he t look, I think we'd be splitting hairs and having an entirely different conversation. I don't know that that's where it all turned, but I hear your point. I hear your point. But before you continue, I we can't discount that this is Freddie Freeman. Like, this is what Freddie Freeman does. It's what he does. Yeah, I can't get there. I yeah, I get yeah, I'm not gonna No, I understand a two-out walk is an absolute killer, and it proved to be in this spot, but I oh, yeah, for sure, and that's well, and that's my point. That's my point. One team's making those small things matter, and the other team is not making those small things matter. Um, all right, what about the decision to run Robertson back out there? Yeah, I just have I have a huge issue with bringing a guy back from an up down who's 40, who hasn't done it this year, who didn't look sharp in the first part of that situation. I mean, if he had come in and gotten Muncy on like 2 pitches and they were those nasty cutters that he throws or the curveball and got him to chase, like that'd be one thing. But he was up in the zone, he was all over the place. Muncy helped him out twice. Um, and then he comes out and he's still got nothing. Again, this is a guy who's 40, who hasn't had an up down. Um, it was I as soon as I saw him back on the mound, I immediately said, "What are we doing?" Like, we carried how many freaking pitchers? How many freaking pitchers do we carry? It's part of the reason that last night ended up the way it ended up, 'cause we're carrying 12 freaking pitchers. You're telling me that like, we were promised that Ranger could piggyback or Ranger could come in the game and get 3 outs. Why not use Ranger there? Ranger can come in and get the 2 8, 9 hitter and then get Otani. Use him there. Like, I am I was furious that David Robertson came no matter how ugly it looked, he came in, he did a job. He got it done. Let him go to the clubhouse. You're carrying 12 freaking arms down there. I I I understand. No. I know that I appreciate you saying that your response was like, "Oh, I'm not mad at it," but, like, it was just my immediate reaction of like, "Why is he back out there? He did his job." Again, you're carrying 12 arms. You don't need 12, but if you're gonna use them, this is you're 8-9-1. Use Bueller, use Taiwan, use honestly, those are I'm not serious about those, but use Ranger or again, use Kerkering there. Like I was furious. I was furious. All right, so we know what happened. Strom comes in after that, strikes out Otani. We know. We already talked about this. So they go into the next inning. They're down 5-3. They go 1-2-3 immediately because Nick comes in. And then I'm freaking out because he pinch hits for Bader. We find out later. We find out later that it's because Bader is injured. Um, Cherry on top of it all. And so then Kirkering comes in and to make matters worse, has a dominant eighth inning, an absolutely dominant eighth inning. Um, and the Phillies come out in the eighth and they pose their biggest threat. Trey with a 1-out walk. Kyle then strikes out, which he has done a lot of in this series. For some reason, the NLDS and Kyle Schwarber just they do not mix. We'll get into that in a little bit. Harp rips a ground ball single into right field, first and third with 2 outs. Bomer works another walk. He's had some pretty good at bats in this series. And then they bring in Mundo off the bench to face Vesia. And it was the right move. I was totally on board with this rather than Marsh. I know Marsh has been better against lefties, but Sosa kills lefties. It's like 300 against lefties. Vesia doesn't throw hard, which is even better for Edmundo. His stuff is not nasty. And he got 2 really good swings. He fouled off a first pitch. He was just a little tardy on it. I don't think he thought he was getting a fastball first pitch. And then the ball that he hit, Riggs, I'm not gonna lie to you. I jumped out of my chair. I thought he actually got it. Um, yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 But, like, it was about 20 feet from the track, like, he didn't miss it by much, and it just got under it. He just got under it, and at that point, I was like, "Well, that's gonna be that, right? That's gonna be the one." And, they put up a little bit of a fight in the ninth. Max Kepler single or doubled to right field. Unfortunately, that was followed by Nick swinging at the first freaking pitch, and grounding out to second base. and ended with Bryson Stott hitting a lazy fly ball to left field. So they went down 1-0 there immediately. The two guys doing damage to the Phillies, Kike Hernandez, um, after a 2-out walk, and then Teoscar Hernandez after Robertson staying in the game. Teoscar Hernandez is freaking scorching hot right now. Terrible regular season, but the guy is scorching hot right now. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Uh, I believe he was down. He was either down 1-0 or 2-0. I can find it. Go ahead, keep talking. Yeah. 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 Out over the plate. Yeah. Yeah. It was a 1-0 count. Well, to your point, I believe the base was open. I believe first base was open at that point. And, for me, Teoscar showed against Sanchez that he would chase down. He was flailing at changeups down the entire game. I don't I think for me the problem I had with the at bat was the first pitch I mean it was way up. And what I wish they would have done is that cutter slider down in the zone, below the zone. If he chases, great. If he doesn't, fine, because Freeman's on deck. And to your point before, it's a lefty, and Strami is really tough on lefties because of his arm angle. And I know the bases would have been loaded, and I know it's Freddie Freeman. But that to me was, man, I'm all for Strami can get righties out, but I think the plan there wasn't where I felt like it was safe against Teoscar. Like, you need to be working down, and Strami doesn't like to work down. He likes to work up in the zone because it makes his velocity look like it's more. Um, and it just didn't work out. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Nope. Nope. Yeah. 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 Well, it happened, and the Phillies went down 1-0, which brought on which oh, yeah, yeah. So our Airbnb was, 45 minutes away from the stadium, and I did not well, the whole car didn't speak because I think everybody was afraid of what I would do if someone talked. Um, so, so game 2, Monday night, I went in with, like, no expectations to the stadium. I was like, I they're n it's if they win, cool. I do wanna say, can we just tip our cap to Jesus Luzardo before, we get into anything else? Jesus Luzardo is turning into one of those pitchers that if you don't get to him in the first inning, forget it. Like, forget it. He just becomes absolutely untouchable after that point. And the thing for me with Jesus was that stretch of 17 in a row. You know, they brought him back out, in the 7th, is that right? Yeah, the 7th inning. Um, and I to me, the pitches that he made were good pitches, but Teoscar and Freddie do what the Dodgers do, like, Teoscar had a good sweeper on the outside, like, literally on the corner of the plate, and he pokes it into center field, and then Freddie takes a sweeper down in the zone and just hooks it into right field. And our boy Nick decides, not to throw the ball to second base. Like, and here's the thing that really ticks me off about his post game. I didn't hear my teammates saying anything. And later, when he almost got thrown out at second, which we're gonna get to, I didn't hear Paco. Regs, 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 I didn't play above college ball, but your first base coach doesn't tell you when the ball is in front of you what to do. That's not what they're there for. You see where the ball is. You make the decision. Man, this guy, then we'll get into it. Jesus, unbelievable performance last night. Regs, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, this is a dude that, you know, and I told you I'm not going to do postmortem, but this is a positive thing. I would seriously consider trying to lock him in this offseason. Like Sanchez style type of deal, try and keep him here. He has found something and unlocked something in himself. And like with the two of those guys and hopefully a painter, and you can keep this sort of rotation around for a long time with these with Sanchez and Luzardo kind of floating at the top of it. They're very talented young pitchers. They both showed that they can pitch in the big moment. They both deserved better. Yeah. You can absolutely tell that like people around the organization are just done with Nick Castellanos. Like broad broadcasters, writers, like fans, we're the Nick Castellanos experiment is we're gonna get into that in a little bit. So Jesus, it does suck that that's where it ended for him. I do think if he gets Freddie, they leave him in, and let him try and get through that inning. If he can get through the 7th inning, you're feeling pretty good about what's left in your pen. Because if he gets through that inning, he's through 3, 4, 5, and you can play with what you want to do there 6, 7, 8, whether it's Kirkring or Strom again. If you want to go Tanner Banks, you can mess with stuff. Um, if he gets through that inning, unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. But before we get into how that played, I want to talk about what the offense was like up to that point. Regs, I know that you experienced the crowd on Saturday. Last night was no different. We were doing everything in our power. I mean, what it's really hard when It's just 3 ball counts that you can get excited about. "Oh, we're gonna get a base runner because it's a 3 ball count." Like, that's where we were at. And I don't wanna take anything away from Blake Snell because he threw nothing in the middle of the plate. And a lot of the pitches, according to GameCast, because I had that up at the stadium, I wasn't at a good angle for balls and strikes, so I had it up just to see, like, you know, and you texted me like, "Can this umpire get" I actually felt, according to what I was watching, that he was okay. Okay, which was a ball. 100%, 100%, 100% a ball. But overall, this is one of those moments where you gotta tip your cap to Blake Snell. He was fantastic. Um, Mixed his pitches, like, I was trying to even, like, think each pitch, "Alright, what's he coming with here?" And I was just not right a lot. The changeup, curveball, slider, he threw 30 times and got 20 swing or the Phillies swung at 30 times, and they swung and missed 20 of those. Like, I actually thought it would have been more like 26, 27. Uh, so I was shocked when I saw it was only 20. Yeah, 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 mhm, yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you what I think at this point. After watching this team in the postseason for 4 years, and let me even just say since 2023, because 2022 is a run of a lifetime. They don't have a collective approach. They don't. They do not. They're such a talented group of individual hitters that I think they just step up with an individual approach. And that's a really difficult way to win baseball games because pitchers, yeah, well, because they're all susceptible to the same thing. So, like, if your individual approach is that one of us is just gonna figure it out, like, what you're saying is exactly right. Like, I don't need to add anything to it. No notes, as you would tell me. you watch teams like the Brewers, you watch, teams like the Dodgers. The Dodgers are so good and so annoying because they don't swing at balls. They just do not swing at balls. They have a collective approach. You saw it the other night. You were there live, so you didn't really see it, but they were just spitting on his changeup. And that was their approach. But if you're the Phillies, that's just not the approach, unfortunately. It's your question is fair. Your thought process is accurate. But there's no good answer other than they just believe as 9 individual hitters, there's enough talent that they're going to overcome it. And unfortunately, they're in a hole now that might force them out of that. And I don't even know if they've seen Yamamoto. So, like, if they did, I think it was last year. I think they saw him. I think they saw him last year in the regular season, and I think it was a good start, but then he settled in, type of thing. Um, so yeah, and he throws like 6 pitches. So what are you eliminating? The lack of offense was so much that when Edmundo Sosa blooped one into center field, the place went nuts. And when I watched the replay on the big board, I said to my buddy sitting next to me, that's how you hit a changeup. He waited back, he learned from his first at bat, and he just blooped it into right center field. Like that, but like it took 5 innings for them to find their first blade of grass. Nothing was hit hard to that point. It was just 1 minute after the other, one at bat after the other, where it was simply like, what is the idea here? And again, I'm not taking anything away from Blake Snell. I'm not. I think for me, it's hard to watch this year in and year out. So as they would say, the natives got restless. Yep. Regs, I don't know. The only good hitter on the team is probably Trey Turner. And maybe Bryson Stott when going well because he's good bat to ball. He has a good approach. Outside of that, and we're gonna get to the other 2 guys here soon, but let's move on in this game so we can get into that trend. All right. So back to that nightmare inning where Sanchi came out. So he comes out with second and third. They go to Kirkering. I had no problem with going to Kirkering, Regs. None at all. I thought it was the right move in that spot. And what does Orion Kirkering do? Gets Tommy Edmonds swinging. Then who, I forget, was it Rojas? Who came up and popped up? Or no. It was Kike next. Kike was next. And of course, Kike hits a little broken bat, ground ball. Saws him off. Beautiful pitch. Saws him off. Trey's in. The whole infield's in. Now, couple of things here. Couple of schools of thought. I played shortstop for a long time. I played in baseball. I played in slow pitch softball. All of the things. I played shortstop many innings of my career. The hardest play to make is coming in on a ball where you're moving toward first base, but you have to throw home. I don't think, and this goes back to your point about Nick. This is what bothers me about this play. I don't think Trey thought he had as much time as he did. When Trey fielded that ball, Teoscar was not even halfway down the line. In my head, Trey could have probably set his feet and thrown home and gotten Teoscar. So that's one. It was a terrible throw. It pulled JT is really good at catching balls and making tags. But here's what bothered me about JT, and I don't think it's getting talked about enough. JT, when he set up for the play at the plate, was in front of home plate. Keep in mind that you just need to leave a part of the plate available to the base runner. The whole plate was available to Teoscar Hernandez. I'd have to check. I actually I can't remember the rule. I thought that a couple of times. I'll look it up then because I want to ask you a question in a moment. I'll look it up. I'll look it up then. But either way, I think to either one of those points, JT didn't do the job of making sure that there was not an easy slide for Teoscar, who's not a good base runner. So if even if you get your cleat in front of half of home plate, he's got to slide to the outside or he's going to slide right into you. And so while I do think that like Trey deserves some blame on the throw, I'm not excusing Trey. I think that we still need to criticize JT for his lack of blocking home plate. So that's the first thing that I wanna mention that I wanna get into the inning and I wanna see if there's any other thoughts that you have. So Kirkering then gets the next guy to pop up. He makes a good pitch, gets the next guy to pop up. But all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, it's Will Smith. Like my first thought was, oh man, it's Will Smith. And like it is just mind-boggling to me that this dude's playing with a broken arm. And I mean, look, he went up there looking first pitch sweeper and he got it and it was actually located well. He didn't even throw a bad pitch. And this is just what the Dodgers do. So that inning went from being almost again similar to the Strom inning, could have been no runs. If they get that play at the plate and the same thing happens with the next batter popping up um to first base, he's out of that inning with no runs. At very worst, maybe one or two. It's 2-1 nothing, 2-0. If you know if something breaks down there. Strum comes in, can't get Otani, and then they get Betts. So they leave that inning 4-0. I don't know if you have any other thoughts to what I mentioned there. Um, Anything else that stuck out to you or jumped out to you? Yeah, 100%. So just to go back to what we mentioned, they cannot block the plate until they have possession of the ball. Yeah, I specifically searched. I specifically searched. I am a little confused by that though, because I thought you just had to leave a path for the base runner to the plate. So if like his foot was like up on like the corner of it, I feel like he's done it before. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, we're gonna talk about it here in a moment, but to go back to like Trey didn't make the throw, Max Muncy made the throw only 2 innings later. And so it's tough to swallow. I Who doesn't run well. To me, the I feel badly for Trey because Trey's worked really hard defensively this year, and he was crushing himself after the game for the throw. I appreciated his accountability. I appreciated him saying like, "I need to make that throw." He was devastated with himself. Trey Turner has worked really hard for his $300 million, and I don't think our fan base necessarily appreciates that a lot because all I hear is like a $300 million player. That was the first thing I heard when he grounded out to end the game last night. And that always goes into the conversation with Trey. But Trey clearly put in the work defensively this year because he's a totally different player. That one bad throw should not define his season. I'm not even that angry about the throw. I will go back to I don't think JT did a good enough job um at the plate anyway. I think no, I'm not I told you I'm not excusing it. It was an awful throw. And if it's even 6 inches to JT's left, he's out. He's out. But I do think we can't there are certain guys on this team who never get blamed for things. And I know we're very critical of JT. You and I at least offensively. But, like, this deserves a little criticism, like, it really does, it really does. Alright, so the Phillies do not respond in the 7th, and the Boo Birds start coming out. They hold the fort, in the 8th with Tanner Banks, and then, in the bottom of the 8th, Max Kepler might be the Phillies' best player in this series. Triples, and then Trey knocks him in. Yeah, I think there were there were a couple last night, especially late, that started to come around a little bit, and even the ground ball out, like, it was back up the middle. They just had him shaded that way. Um, he was a little late, and it wasn't hit as hard as I thought it was initially. It's like 80-mile-an-hour exit velocity. However, you now have 1 out and the tying run essentially on deck for the 2 guys who, you just want one of them, right? Aaron Judge just hit a 3-run game-tying home run. Well, he's 3 for 3 tonight, so that definitely helps, right? But yeah, I mean, if they lose this game or series is not on Aaron Judge. Is really is which is my whole point here. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, well, Schwarber worked a walk in that spot. He got on base. And then Bryce came up against Snell, and the sliders, back-to-back sliders chased him down and away. And earlier in the game, he didn't do it. He laid off him. He is absolutely trying to do too much. And again, we're going to get to that in a minute, but that was just a moment in the game. And then Alec Boehm comes up, hits a ground ball to third. From my vantage point, I thought Trey beat it. On the replay, he clearly did not, but he made that play really close. So in the 8th inning of both games 1 and 2, the Phillies could not break through. Well, that wasn't the 8th. I'm wrong about that final play. Did that inning end? No, Bryce was the 3rd out in the 8th because Bohm led off the 9th. I'm thinking of an entirely different inning. Bryce Bry Bryce flew out to end the 8th inning. Dude, I am like, this is really bad podcasting. I didn't write it down, and I'm going off of memory only, but I'm pretty sure the 8th inning ended. No, the 7th was a 1-2-3 inning. I'm pulling it up right now. The 8th inning was Marsh flies out sharply, Kepler triples, Trey singles, Schwarber strikes out, Bryce flies out to center field. So the walk was earlier in the game. I forget what inning that was. That was right before the blow up. That's what it was. It was the 6th. It was the 6th inning where they had first and second and 1 out, and Bryce struck out and then Bohm grounded out. That's right. I'm sorry. And because then in the 7th, that's when the Dodgers exploded for 4 runs. It's that whole we can't get the job done. They come out and they do get the job done. So the Schwarber struck out in a big spot, and then Bryce flew out to center field, hit it hard, just got under it. Like he hit it like 97 miles an hour. He just got under it. That both actually he and Marsh both did that in the 8th inning. So bring in Joan Duran. The Phillies can't read the room and did the stupid fireworks show and got booed. Luckily, he gets through the inning with no damage. And then the 9th, we're finally here. Regs, I really wish and preferred that they would have just lost 4-1. Alec Bohm leads off with a ground ball up the middle, base hit. JT Realmuto doubles, second and third, tying run at the plate. That tying run is Nick Castellanos. Comes up, swings at 2 awful pitches right out of the gate. Like, my guy he swung at a sweeper right down the middle. And if Nick is Nick from 2 years ago, that pitch is probably in the seats. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, no. Well, Trinan stinks, and we finally got to him. And this was an ultimate slap in the face because Roberts didn't think like that. He was like, we don't even need Sasaki. We're going to get through this. We're going to try and give Blake some confidence. And so he pokes what is an absolute ball. He just got those long arms and just gets his bat on and pokes it down the left field line. It used to for him. And then like an absolute jabron goes to second. And if that tag, if I don't know where people like learn to tag, but if Edmund like just puts a tag down and says swipes it, he's out. He's out. Anyway, he's not. And here's where everything falls apart. And Regs, if you will forgive my rant, I have a couple things I want to rant about here. This this was this decision is fireable for 2 reasons. One, you absolutely do not bunt in a situation where you have all the momentum. The stadium is losing its collective mind. Bryson Stott has your 3rd best K rate overall, 15%. 3rd best against lefties at 18%. This is not a dude who swings and misses. He's your best bat to ball guy. Vesia is not a hard thrower, 92 miles an hour. The way Vesia gets you out is the sweeper, is the slider. He throws it out of the zone. Bryson doesn't chase those pitches. He doesn't. In 2023, Bryson Stott came up in a huge situation when the Miami Marlins brought in a left-handed pitcher to face him, and he put a ball about 15 rows deep in right center field. Last year, in Game 2 of the NLDS, Bryson Stott comes up against Edwin Diaz and flings a ball down the right field line to tie the game. But let's bunt. Let's bunt. And the first time Bryson Stott squares the bunt, we clearly see Mookie Betts wheel to third base. Before Bryson Stott even squares the second time, Max Muncy and Freddie Freeman are 30 feet up the third and first base lines. At that point, Bryson Stott needs to pull the bat back and swing. But he said after the game, I was given the bunt sign. I know what Topper said, that these guys are they're given He was given the bunt sign. He's going to lay it down. If he pulls back and swings, you've got two guys creeping up on the plate who are diving for their lives. And you've got the two middle infielders booking. And any contact you make at that point on the ground is going to find the outfield. Now, on the other side of things, because we'll get back, I want your thoughts on the Topper thing. As someone who prided himself on base running in my prime, watching Nick Castellanos take a lead and the people out there, because there are a lot of them. Well, why didn't they pinch run for it? Because Harrison Bader can't run. Why can't we use a pitcher? Well, do you remember Cliff Lee getting picked off at second base for being a moron? What are we talking about here? This at the very least, Bryson Stott can hit a ground ball to second base and move Nick that way. Here's so so a few issues with the Castellanos base running. The first is that when you take a lead off a second, you always take steps toward the shortstop. So you're like taking your lead toward the outfield because you want to feel the shortstop. Like, I stole a good number of bases. And the reason that I did is because I could feel the guy behind me. And I'm not asking Nick to steal a base, but if you know you're bunting and you know the wheel plays on, then your job is to run with the shortstop for multiple reasons. The first being because even if Bryson doesn't get the bunt down, you're in front. You're in front of him. That throw, they're not making that throw. If Bryson pulls back, they're not making the throw. That's one. Two, if you decide if Bryson pulls back and you're halfway down the line, you can go back to second base. If he pops up the bunt, you can go back to second base. If he gets it down and you don't think you're going to make it, you can go to second base. But ultimately, if you run with Mookie Betts instead of waiting, you're probably going to get there because that's not going to. Max Muncy turned around and Mookie Betts was standing at third base. And Nick Castellanos, he's 20 feet away. It's Teoscar Hernandez all over again, except he made a good throw. Oh, right. But it was good enough. It was good enough because what he did was he threw it to the base, which is what you're taught to do. You're not supposed to throw it at the moving target. You're supposed to throw it at the base. If Mookie gets there, which he's gonna because he's a freak, then he's gonna be out. And so I do have issues with Nick Castellanos' base running. I have larger issues with the bunt in general. And so especially because if they just let him swing and he hits ground ball to second base, the game is tied with a Harrison Bader single. Weston Wilson pinch hit for him. Kepler grounds out. Trey grounds out. I think for me, and this is where we're going to turn to the trends. Let's talk about Topper here. Because after the game, he said, we were playing for the tie. We liked where our bullpen was. You do not play for the tie in a series you are down 1-0. If you're up 1-0, right. If you're up 1-0, Regs, and also Sasaki can go more than one inning. Like, let's not pretend Sasaki can't come out there again in the 10th. He threw like 5 pitches. Not even. Regs, to me, and also we didn't pull it off because Mookie was hiding the wheel well. He showed the wheel on the first pitch, Rob. You pull the you as soon as you see that wheel with Nick, you take off the bunt and you let Bryson swing, and if they move back, they move back. Who cares? But you absolutely take that off. It was a fireable. Regs, I don't get mad often. I don't. I get frustrated, I get upset, I get sad. I don't get angry, especially at Rob Thompson. But I was livid. That play is going to make me lose more sleep than Cliff Lee's game 2 start in the 2011 NLDS. The 4-0 blown lead against the Cardinals, which has lived with me for 14 freaking years, is now replaced by the this is this is on the all-time Philly blunders. It is the Mount Rushmore of Philly blunders. Was bunting Bryson Stott as the winning run with with no one out. You gave an ailing bullpen and a good Dodger team an out. You bailed Dave Roberts. You bailed Dave Roberts out of the decision to put Blake Trinan in. It is fireable. It is fireable. That is an unacceptable decision. Regs, what you just said about we're going to talk about this bunt on episode 900. Imagine if he swings away, they win the game. That is a comeback we'd be talking about on episode 900. And we were robbed of that because of a bunt. The sacrifice bunt, it, it was absolute, it was 100% cowardly. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It and your best contact hitter. Oh, no, it was perfect. No, it was perfect. It was perfect. It was exactly what you want to do. Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 And this is why, I don't think Rob's the right guy. And so when I someone asked me about the bunt, like, the person who asked me was like, "It was a great bunt, like, it really was, but do you think you should have bunted to Freddie?" And my answer was, "No, Freddie throws lefty." Like, that like, he probably has an easier play on it than Max does. Yeah. Well, also, can we just this is another Freddie moment that just The pick, the pick. There's no way. Regs, I can think of like 15 first basemen that kicked that because they're not ready for it, and the Phillies tie the game. Freddie Freeman is just he will never do anything wrong against the Phillies. He won't do he won't do anything wrong against the Phillies. Um, yeah. Regs, I wanna get to these top 3 guys, and then I just wanna quickly talk about tomorrow, and you know what? It's fine. I don't think people are gonna care. I think people, they wanna hear this because 'cause they're all feeling it, right? They wanna feel validated in what they're thinking, so I'm not worried about the time tonight. If you wanna shut us off, but I know that you're thinking all the things that we're thinking. And maybe some of these things you haven't thought about, and you're like, "Shit, damn it, like, freaking A, man, what are we doing?" Um, but Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper. I want individually, I'm just gonna run through some things here. I know what the numbers are, where they like 2 for 21 right now with like 11 or 12 strikeouts or something, like something in that ballpark. Um, look, I've said this to you, and I'm not afraid to say it on here. I don't care if people are like, "As he shut up," but I will give a little bit of a grace and a little pass to Trey Turner because he missed the final 2.5 weeks of the season. So I said it on this show that Trey might not be Trey, and he hasn't been. He saw the game 162 and then the exhibition game, and and immediately see Shohei Ohtani and Blake Snell. Like, come on, like give the guy a break. Like, again, I'm not happy about it, but I'm willing to give him a little more grace than the other two. Um, let me jump to Bryce for a second because I'm a huge Bryce defender. I think people are ridiculous when it comes to Bryce. Um, I've had to take breaks in conversations when it comes to Bryce because I just think this idea of, well, he gets paid all this money and he's the cornerstone of this team. Baseball is not. Derek Jeter the other night said it perfectly. He was asked the question on the post-game show after the Yankees lost. What does Aaron Judge need to do to get back on track? And he kind of laughed and he goes, "You know what needs to get back on track?" And he paused and he listed 1 through 9 of the Yankees lineup. That's who needs to do their job. 1 through 9. And he listed Aaron's name in there. And so that's always the way I feel about Bryce when people are very critical of him. Two things can be true with Bryce Harper. One being that Bryce has been their best postseason player since 2022. And it's not, no one can argue that. He's been a top 5 postseason player in the league's history. Like, he's got one of the best OPSs in league history in the postseason. The other thing can be true that he is not playing well right now. He is struggling. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's the wrist and they're just not saying it. I don't know that it's just he's cold. Any of those things could be the reason why. But it's fair to say that he's not doing what we need him to do. But also to say this hasn't been his track record. Like, this is not Bryce Harper comes in on October and struggles all of October. He was their best hitter in the Mets series last year. He was one of their best. Torched the Braves in 23. Was the only guy who showed up in Arizona when they needed him. Schwarber had a big hit too. Big home run there too. And in 22, Bryce was by far their best player. But he's not doing the job right now. He's swinging through pitches. He's swinging at bad pitches. And I think he's pressing. He's saying he's not, but I think he is. But where I really want to focus my attention because we want to talk, oh, Bryce Harper and all this money, Bryce Harper and all this money. Kyle Schwarber is going to get big money in the offseason. And Regs, I don't know that I want to give it to him because this performance has been absolutely putrid. You say what you want about Bryce, but Kyle looks like he has no idea what he's doing out there. He hasn't had a hit in the postseason since the Kodai Senga home run. That was the last time he has a hit. But I'm hearing MVP chants behind me last night. When I talk about guys that don't get fairly criticized on this roster, he is one. He is one. Because he smiles, because he says the right things. I hear all the time Bryce Harper wears the Fanatic cleats, and Bryce Harper does this, and he panders to the fans. But Bryce Harper is also accountable. So is Kyle. So is Kyle. I don't want to take that away from him. But if we're going to say these things about Bryce, we got to say these things about Kyle. He has been awful. Awful. My problem with Kyle is that this whole year, Kyle Schwarber has not been afraid to hit a single, to hit a ball in the grass. And all of a sudden, we're seeing Kyle from 2 years ago. Every swing is big. It's almost like when he got into the Ryan Howard chase, he forgot what it was like to hit singles. Because I can't even, Regs, when was the last time he hit a single? Right. I think it was the Brewer series. If 1 through 3 aren't going to do anything, the bottom of the order is doing. I was happy when it was the bottom of the order in the 9th last night. Yeah. Well, real quickly, yeah, I agree with all of it. I'm at that point too, and I hate saying it. I don't know that I necessarily think that he's not the type of star, but like it's getting harder to believe that he is. So, but again, I'm not totally there. And I think when I hear him talk about his love of this city and how much he appreciates the fans, I then look across that clubhouse at the right fielder who got benched and his comments last night. And I'm bothered by a group of fans who are like, he wasn't wrong. Well, like, no, I mean, he's right in that when it's going well, we cheer. When it's not going well, there are boos. Like, yeah, he's right about that. But like excusing the comments is a little weird to me. Like, I feel like there's like a group of the fan base that's for whatever reason obsessed with Nick. Like Nick just says it like it is. Well, but like, all right, for a guy who says it like it is, he sure can't take a group of fans who tell it like it is. Like, you're not playing well as a team. So what are we gonna do? Sit on our hands? Like, now, to be fair, Regs, Nick has had a lot of big hits as a Philly. He has. He's had a lot of big hits as a Philly. The 2 home runs against Strider, the walk-off last year against the Mets. Last night, he's had a lot of big hits as a Philly. I don't want to take away some of the things that Nick has done in this city. But the Nick experience comes with this like arrogance that is really bothersome at times. And we've been on, I'm on this show and I have said this on social media. I've said it on here. Nick is a human, as a father. I absolutely love the guy and I've loved his honesty. But I think he's very misguided with all of the stuff he's saying right now because he's disgruntled and he doesn't want to be here. And he's making it very clear to the organization that he wants out. And that's fine. But if you're going to lay the blame of the way you play as an as a team at the feet of the fans, my guy, find another outlet. Because, for the people who are like, well, you didn't say anything wrong. Did you not read, or you didn't get the whole context of the quote? Oh no, I read the quote. I read the quote. And it wasn't just, oh, they're the wind in our sails or the wind in our face. It was also, when things aren't going well, we get tight because we don't want to be reprimanded. Oh, I'm sorry. Are the 45,000 people there also your teacher that was a nun that would hit you with a ruler? What are we doing, Nick? What are we doing? You're afraid. Well, Nick played in Cincinnati. They don't care. They weren't good enough to care. He played. I think it's indifference. I just don't like John Crux said it best. If you the video of him saying at his Wall of Fame speech about if if you think it's hard to play here, you just weren't tough enough. And Nick wants to present as this big tough guy. But last night he walks to the plate and his walk-up music in his first at bat was Falling in and Out of Love with You by Alicia Keys. Like, you don't think I picked up on that, Nick? Like, dude, what, like, we're dumb? Like, stop with the subliminal crap. Yeah, the team hasn't been good enough. And this fan base is not going to sit on its hands. Like, we tried so hard last night to be excited, to get behind them. And they kept giving us reasons to fall out. I don't boo. I do not. I don't boo our players. I don't. I did boo when they played the freaking Duran entrance. That pissed me off. But I don't boo our players. But I don't blame the people who did. Here's my ultimate pushback on Nick. Where else are you going to go and have sellouts on a Wednesday afternoon in April? Where else are you going to go and play in front of 30,000 people in an exhibition game a week before the postseason because all they want to do is show you that they care. That's all we want to do. We want to cheer. We take every chance to do that. Every three ball count last night, the entire stadium was standing. But when you don't come through, we're not going to. Do you expect us to keep cheering when it's constant? You're no hit through 5 innings. You expect us to be up and cheering? Yep. It's how it's going to be different. Well, we ain't getting good prospects for Nick. That's my stray at Nick Castellanos. I and it sucks because I really loved the guy for the bulk of his time here, but as soon as he got benched, he turned into a sour grape, and it's been annoying ever since. And I'll tell you what, Nick, it doesn't go well for guys who leave here and leave here blaming the fans. It does not go well for them when they come back. And when we trade you, you're gonna have to come back. And if you think the boos are loud now, ask Scott Rowland what they're like when you come back after blaming us for your faults. It doesn't go well. It's gonna be much louder. We'll sell out just to boo you. Like those Phillies teams when Rowland came back weren't good teams, but they sold out to boo Scott Rowland. So if you don't think that there's going to be 45,000 people there to let you know that we don't like you anymore, buckle in, big guy. Because what he said last night, and then they asked Bryce about it today, and I think even his teammates are sort of fed up with him, if I'm being honest. Because Bryce knew who they were asking about, and he just said, "If my teammates are saying that, I don't know what's going through their mindset, but that's not the way I see it." And that's why I appreciate Bryce. That's why I appreciate Bryce. I don't know if Bryce believes it or not. Again, he's a panderer. He knows how to get on our good side. But there's a part of me that truly does think that Bryce is a competitor who does get frustrated when he doesn't succeed. And I think Nick's okay if he messes up every now and then. I think he's okay with that. I don't think that really bothers him. Um, he doesn't seem like it really takes a lot of a lot of skin off his back at all. So that's where we're at, down 0-2. Can I, before we go, just throw a couple of positive thoughts out there? All right, let's do this. Regs, I'm going to say something to the opposite of what you have said for about 2 years now. That flight to Arizona, I want a study done too. But is it possible that a flight out west down 0-2 could reverse the flight out west when up 2-0? Is it the reverse Bermuda Triangle? But maybe could it be? Could it be? Also, they're bringing the powder blues out west. So, I don't know. Here's the last thing I'll say. Exactly. So I'm gonna say this. That's the last fireable offense for Rob Thompson. Um, but there's always the world where Aaron Nola comes out and shoves for like 4 innings tomorrow, and they go to Ranger for 3, and he shoves for 3. And then Regs, a game 4 Chris Sanchez, Tyler Glasnow matchup actually plays very strongly into the favor of the Phillies. Very strongly into the favor of the Phillies. And look, if you get back here in a game 5 with Luzardo throwing, who the heck knows what can happen? Now, all that being said, they get blown out tomorrow. So, um, it's been a fun ride. 96 wins is a blast. I fully expect them to lose, and we'll just have to be okay and deal with another off season. And I will say, as much as I've avoided the postmortem, I'll say this: there will be a lot of changes. I'm telling you right now, if tomorrow night goes the way I expect it to go, and not the way that I hope it goes, it's not gonna be pretty. Oh, John's not happy. John's not happy. He's not happy. He's not happy. And certainly, um, neither are we. So, well, if we're up till 2 in the morning, I mean, something weird happened. It's gonna be midnight. It's gonna be midnight, and we're like, I'd stay up till midnight to watch the baseball team lose in 3 after a 96 win season. It just should not be this way, but again, they're not a golf away, they're small cracks, and those small cracks are coming back to bite them. We don't know when we're returning. There's a chance that, we're maybe we jump on tomorrow night and lament, maybe we don't. Um, the Eagles play on Thursday, but I don't think we're really concerning ourselves with the football team right now. So you might just get a recap over the weekend of everything that's happened. If somehow, some way, this baseball team pushes it to a game 5, we will be back on Thursday or Friday. If somehow, some way they're playing at Citizens Bank Park on Saturday night, you will hear from us before Saturday night. If not, you might hear from us Sunday. We're going to take some time and process. There'll be a lot to talk about. Until then, do all the follows, like click subscribe here, do it on the podcast stuff. Go to all your social media and just type in Phixated because I'm not running through it right now. It's been a long show. We're glad you hung with us. We know you're feeling what we're feeling. We'll talk to you at some point. Phil's just, I don't know. Don't, I got nothing. Yeah.
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there, and way out of here!
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.